Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Pepper Revenge. This channel is all about crazy true stories, stuff that happens in real life when things get a little bit messy.
The fork clattered against my plate with a sound that seemed to echo through the dining room of my own apartment. Sunday dinner, my groceries, my labor, my table. Yet somehow I felt like the unwelcome guest. Pass the potatoes, Nate, Kevin said, already reaching across the table before I could respond. My brother had that way about him, taking what he wanted while making it seem like a favor to let him do it. He loaded his plate with the largest portion, the golden brown roast potatoes I'd spent an hour preparing just right. Mom sat at the head of my table, dabbing her mouth with the cloth napkins I'd bought specifically for these family dinners. Nathan, honey, this roast is divine. You really should have been a chef instead of... She waved her hand vaguely in the air, as if my career was something distasteful she couldn't quite name. Instead of what, Mom? I asked quietly, cutting a small piece of the beef I'd slow-cooked for 6 hours. You know that computer thing you do in basements? Kevin chimed in, his mouth full of my food. What do you call yourself? IT support? My sister Rachel laughed, the sound sharp and familiar. Come on, Kevin. He fixes people's email passwords. It's very important work. She exchanged a look with her husband, Mike, who was busy demolishing the green bean casserole. I set down my fork and looked around the table. These people, my family, sat in my home, eating food I'd purchased and prepared, at a table I'd set with care. The same table where I'd written checks for Rachel's college tuition, Kevin's business loans, Mom's car repairs, and countless other emergencies over the past 15 years. Actually, I began. But Kevin was already launching into another story about his latest get-rich-quick scheme. So this import business I'm working on, he said, gesturing with his fork, it's going to be huge. International dropshipping. The margins are incredible. I just need to get through this rough patch and then you'll pay back the $12,000 you owe me, I asked. The table went quiet for exactly 3 seconds. Then Kevin laughed, that booming laugh that had dominated every family gathering since we were kids. Oh, come on, Nate. You know that was an investment, not a loan. Besides, he looked around the table, making sure he had everyone's attention. Even homeless people have more worth than you. At least they're honest about needing handouts. The table erupted. Mom started giggling, then full-on laughing until tears streamed down her cheeks. Rachel snorted wine through her nose. Mike slapped the table. Kevin beamed, proud of his wit. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, watching my family lose themselves in laughter at my expense. The joke wasn't even original. Kevin had made variations of it for years. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, I heard it clearly. I set down my fork with deliberate care, stood up slowly, walked to the front door, opened it, and held it wide. Dinner's over, I said quietly. Kevin was still chuckling. Oh, come on, Nate. Don't be so sensitive. We're just having fun. Out! The single word cut through the laughter like a blade. Mom looked confused. Rachel exchanged glances with Mike. Kevin's smile faltered. You're serious? Kevin asked. Dead serious. All of you. Out of my home. Now. They left, muttering about my sensitivity, my inability to take a joke, my antisocial behavior. Kevin was the last to go, pausing in the doorway. You know I was just kidding, right? Family can joke with each other. I looked at him. Really looked at him. My older brother, 42 years old and living in a studio apartment he could barely afford. Wearing clothes I'd bought him for Christmas. Digesting food I'd cooked with ingredients I'd purchased. Kevin, I said softly, you're about to learn the difference between worthless and invisible. I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. They never noticed. That was the thing that struck me most as I sat in my home office that night, staring at my computer screen. 15 years of being the family's invisible ATM, and they genuinely had no idea what I actually did for a living. I opened my laptop and pulled up my banking records. Every holiday, every emergency, every crisis, there I was. Nathan Carter, the reliable one, the quiet one. The one who always said yes when they needed money and never asked questions when they needed someone to mock. Christmas 2010. $3,200 for Mom's car transmission. March 2020, $8,500 for Rachel's final semester when her scholarship fell through. July 2020, $5,000 for Kevin's investment opportunity in cryptocurrency. November 2020, 2,100 for mom's root canal. February 2021, 4,800 for Rachel's wedding dress and flowers. June 2021, 7,200 for Kevin's apartment deposit and first 3 months' rent. The list went on, and on, and on. I pulled up my professional portfolio next. Carter Cybersecurity Consulting, 18 Fortune 500 clients, government contracts, financial institutions, healthcare networks. Last year's income, $847,000. This year was tracking higher. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my family saw me as some basement-dwelling tech support drone, I was actually protecting the digital infrastructure of companies they'd recognize. Banks where they kept their money, hospitals where they received care. My computer thing involved designing security protocols for systems that handled billions of dollars in transactions. But I lived simply. A modest apartment, a reliable car, good food but not flashy. I'd always believed that wealth was meant to be shared with family, that success meant being able to help the people you loved when they needed it. Apparently, that made me worthless. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. "Hey bro, sorry if I went too far tonight. You know how I am. Anyway, I might need to borrow some cash next week. Business is a little slow." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened my contacts and began scrolling through my family members. Mom, Rachel, Mike, Kevin, Aunt Linda, Cousin James, Uncle Robert. One by one, I blocked them all. Then I opened my banking app and canceled every automatic payment I'd set up for family members. Mom's car payment, Rachel's student loan assistance, Kevin's phone bill, the life insurance policy I'd been paying on Mom's behalf. Next, I logged into my email and began composing messages to my clients, letting them know I'd be relocating my business in the coming weeks. Remote work was standard in my field. I could operate from anywhere with a reliable internet connection. By 2 a.m., I had a plan. By 4 a.m., I had a timeline. By dawn, I was already packing. The invisible man was about to disappear completely. The first week passed without a single call. I'd moved into a temporary furnished apartment across town while I finalized my relocation plans. My phone, the same number my family had been calling for 15 years, sat silent on my kitchen counter. I found the silence oddly peaceful. No emergency calls at midnight, no guilt trips about missing Sunday dinner, no requests for small loans that we all knew would never be repaid. Just quiet. My work continued seamlessly. Video conferences with clients in New York and Los Angeles. Security audits for a major hospital chain. A consultation with a tech startup about their data protection protocols. The professional world saw me clearly, my expertise, my value, my worth. It was only my family that had been blind. Week 2 brought the first signs of concern. A text from Mom to my work phone, which she'd apparently gotten from my old business cards. "Honey, you missed Sunday dinner. Are you feeling okay?" I deleted it without responding. Rachel tried next, sending a Facebook message. "Nate, Mom's worried. Call her." I deactivated my Facebook account. Kevin's approach was more direct. He showed up at my old apartment building on a Wednesday evening, buzzing my old unit repeatedly. I watched from my car across the street as he argued with the new tenant, a young woman who clearly had no idea who he was or why he was yelling about his brother. Week 3 brought desperation. Mom called my office number, reaching my professional voicemail. "Nathan Carter, Cybersecurity Consulting. Please leave a detailed message, and I'll return your call within 24 hours. Nathan, this is your mother. I don't understand what's happening. Please call me back. We need to talk." I saved the message, but didn't return the call. The beautiful thing about being invisible for so long was that no one really knew anything about my actual life. They didn't know my real income, my client base, my professional reputation. They didn't know my friends or colleagues. They had no idea where I might go or what I might do. They only knew the version of me they'd created, the quiet, reliable ATM who lived to serve their needs. That version of Nathan Carter was gone. Month 1 brought consequences. Kevin's text messages sent to my old number grew increasingly frantic. I'd kept the phone active just to monitor their desperation, though I never responded. "Nate, I really need that loan we talked about. The business thing fell through, and these guys are serious about getting their money back." 2 days later, "Bro, where are you? I went by your place and some chick answered the door. What's going on?" A week after that, "This isn't funny anymore. I'm in real trouble here. Call me back." Mom's car payment bounced on the 15th. I knew because she called my work number again, her voice shaky. Nathan, there seems to be some mistake with my car payment. The bank says the automatic transfer was canceled. Could you call them and fix it? Rachel's student loan assistance disappeared the same week. Her call came on Thursday. Nate, Sally Mae says my payment assistance was discontinued. I can't afford the full payment on my teacher's salary. Please call me back. I was in Denver by then, meeting with a new client about a comprehensive security overhaul for their financial services division. The contract was worth $200,000 over 6 months. While my family scrambled to figure out where their safety net had gone, I was expanding my business into new markets. The irony was delicious. Kevin's final message came at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Nate, I know you're getting these. I'm sorry about what I said at dinner. I didn't mean it. These guys broke my car windows, and they're talking about worse. I need 15 grand by Friday or I'm screwed. Please, I'm begging you. I listened to the message twice, then deleted it. On Friday, I was in Seattle, signing a contract with a major tech company. The signing bonus alone was more than Kevin needed. I celebrated with an expensive dinner at a restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay, toasting my success with a glass of wine that cost more than Kevin's monthly rent. My phone buzzed with another message. This time it was Rachel. Nate, I don't know what's going on, but Mom had to sell her car. She's taking the bus to work now. Kevin's in some kind of trouble. We need to talk. Whatever we did, whatever happened at that dinner, we can fix it. Please come home. Home. As if the place where they'd spent 15 years treating me like their personal bank account and favorite punching bag was ever really home. I turned off the phone and ordered dessert. Kevin found my old apartment on a cold Tuesday in November. I know because I'd paid the new tenant, Sarah, to call me if anyone from my family showed up. She was a nursing student, grateful for the extra cash and happy to help a stranger avoid what she called toxic family drama. He was pretty upset, she told me over the phone. Kept saying he was your brother and demanding to know where you went. When I told him you'd moved out 6 weeks ago, he kind of lost it. Lost it how? Started yelling about how you couldn't just disappear, how family doesn't abandon family. I told him you paid your lease through the end of the month and left no forwarding address. He asked if you left anything behind. What did you tell him? The truth, that when I moved in, the place was completely empty, like no one had ever lived there. That was exactly right. I'd hired a professional cleaning service and donated everything I couldn't take with me. Furniture, kitchen supplies, books, even the decorations on the walls. I'd wanted to leave no trace of the old Nathan Carter, the one who'd wasted 15 years being their unpaid support system. Sarah continued. He tried to get me to let him inside, said he just wanted to look around. I told him I'd call the police if he didn't leave. He finally went, but he sat in his car outside for like 2 hours. Did he say anything else? Yeah, when he was leaving, he said something weird. He said, Nathan always comes back. He always fixes things. Then he drove off. I thanked Sarah and hung up, then opened my laptop to check my professional social media accounts. LinkedIn, deleted. Twitter, deactivated. Instagram, gone. I'd systematically erased my digital footprint, at least the parts my family might know about. My professional reputation remained intact, of course. In cybersecurity, credibility was everything. But Nathan Carter, the family member, the reliable brother and son, had vanished as completely as if he'd never existed. The next day, Sarah called again. This time it was Mom who'd shown up, with Rachel in tow. The older woman was crying, Sarah reported. She kept saying she just wanted to talk to you, that there had been some misunderstanding. The younger one was angry, demanding to know if I was hiding you or if you'd paid me to lie. What did you tell them? Same thing I told the brother. You moved out, no forwarding address. Place was empty when I moved in. But the older woman, your mom, I guess, she left something. My chest tightened. What kind of something? A letter. She asked me to give it to you if you ever came back. Should I open it? Read it to me. I heard paper rustling, then Sarah's voice. Nathan, I don't understand what's happening. Kevin says you won't return his calls. Rachel says her student loan help stopped. My car payment bounced and I had to sell the car to avoid his repossession. I know we joke around at family dinners, but we never meant to hurt you. Please come home. We can fix whatever's wrong. Love, Mom. I was quiet for so long that Sarah asked if I was still there. I'm here, I said finally. Sarah, do me a favor. Throw that letter away. Are you sure? She seemed really upset. I'm sure. And Sarah, if anyone else from my family shows up, don't engage with them at all. Just call the police and say someone's maltreating you. Okay, but can I ask you something? Sure. What did they do to you? I mean, your brother seemed genuinely desperate, and your mom was heartbroken, but you're completely done with them, aren't you? I thought about how to answer that, how to explain 15 years of being taken for granted and of being treated like an ATM with legs, of being mocked and dismissed while simultaneously being expected to solve every problem and fund every crisis. Sarah, I said finally, sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who see your worth the least. 3 months after that Sunday dinner, my family finally gathered without me. Sarah told me about it. Kevin had apparently been watching my old apartment building and saw her coming home from class. He looked terrible, she said during our weekly check-in call, like he hadn't slept in days. He begged me to tell him anything about where you might have gone, said his whole family was falling apart. I was in Portland by then, having secured a major contract with a healthcare network. My new apartment had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a far cry from the modest place where I'd hosted all those Sunday dinners. What exactly did he say? I asked, more curious than concerned. He said they'd had some kind of family meeting. Your mom, your sister, him. They went through old text messages, trying to figure out when you started pulling away. He said they realized how much money you'd been giving them over the years. How much did they figure out? He didn't give me an exact number, but he said it was more than a house. He kept saying they never meant to take advantage, that they thought you wanted to help. I laughed, a sound that surprised us both. They thought I wanted to be their personal bank while they mocked me at every opportunity? That's kind of what I asked him. I said, if he was helping you so much, why were you all so mean to him? He got really quiet then. And? He said something like, we thought he knew we were just joking. We thought he knew how much we needed him. The delusion was breathtaking. 15 years of jokes at my expense, 15 years of taking my money and my help for granted, and they'd convinced themselves it was all harmless family banter. Sarah continued, your mom's been taking the bus to work since she sold her car. Your sister had to take a second job to cover her student loans. And Kevin, what about Kevin? He said some guys roughed him up pretty bad over money he owed them. He's staying on your mom's couch now. I felt a flicker of something, not quite satisfaction, but a sense of cosmic justice. Kevin's import business had been a transparent fraud from the beginning. Drop-shipping schemes that hemorrhage money, get-rich-quick fantasies funded by loans he couldn't repay. I'd known it would collapse eventually. I just hadn't expected to be gone when it happened. Sarah, did he ask you to give me a message? Yeah, actually. He said to tell you that he was sorry about what he said at dinner, that he knows now what worthless really means, and it isn't you. Too little, too late. But at least he was learning. He also said they composed some kind of letter to you, but they don't know where to send it. They tried reaching out to your old coworkers, but apparently you'd already left that job too? I had. Carter Cybersecurity Consulting was now fully independent, with clients across the country and a reputation that commanded premium rates. The old Nathan Carter, the one who'd worked for a mid-sized firm while quietly building his client base, was as gone as the one who'd cooked Sunday dinners for ungrateful relatives. One more thing, Sarah said. He asked if I thought you'd ever come back. I told him I didn't think so. Was I right? I looked out my windows at the Portland skyline, at the life I'd built for myself in just 3 months. No family obligations, no guilt trips, no emergency calls at midnight, just my work, my success, and my peace. You were right, I said. 6 months after I'd walked out of my own dining room, the letter arrived. It came through my attorney, the only professional contact I'd maintained in my old city. Marcus Webb had handled my business contracts for years and was one of the few people who knew my actual financial situation. When my family couldn't find me through normal channels, they'd apparently hired a private investigator who'd tracked down my legal representation. Marcus called me on a Thursday morning while I was reviewing security protocols for a new client in Austin. Nathan, I've got something here from your family. Looks like they went to some trouble to find you. What kind of trouble? Private investigator, cost them about $3,000 according to the invoice I saw. They're serious about reaching you. $3,000 they didn't have, spent on finding someone they'd spent years treating like garbage. The irony was perfect. What do they want, Marcus? Letters sealed, addressed to you personally. They asked me to forward it, said it was urgent. Should I send it along? I thought about it. 6 months of silence. 6 months of building a new life, new clients, new success. Part of me was curious about what they'd finally figured out. But another part of me, the larger part, simply didn't care anymore. Open it, I said. Read it to me. You sure? It's marked personal and confidential. Marcus, you've seen my financial records. You know what I was giving them and what I was getting in return. Just read the damn letter. I heard paper tearing, then Marcus clearing his throat. Okay, here goes. It's handwritten. Looks like your mother's writing. Dear Nathan, Marcus began, his voice taking on the cadence of someone reading reluctantly. We hired someone to find you because we didn't know what else to do. It's been 6 months since you left that Sunday dinner and our family is falling apart. Marcus paused. You want me to keep going? Keep going. Kevin lost his apartment and is living with me now. The men he owed money to broke his ribs before he could explain that his brother wasn't helping him anymore. Rachel had to drop out of her master's program because she can't afford the tuition without your help. I'm working double shifts and taking the bus because I had to sell my car. Another pause. Nathan, this is pretty heavy stuff. It gets better. Keep reading. We know now how much money you gave us over the years. Kevin found old bank statements and we added it up. $347,000. We never realized it was so much because it came in pieces whenever we needed it, and you never made it seem like a burden. I laughed, startling Marcus. Never made it seem like a burden. They mocked me every time I wrote a check. There's more, Marcus said. We also know now what you really do for work. Rachel found some articles online about cybersecurity consultants and saw your name mentioned. We had no idea you were so successful, so important. We thought you were just what? Just a computer repair guy who lived alone and didn't have much going on. We're sorry we never asked more about your work, your life, your dreams. The apology was 15 years too late, but at least it was honest. Marcus continued. Kevin wants you to know that what he said at dinner about homeless people having more worth than you was the stupidest thing he's ever said. He knows now that you're worth more than all of us combined, and not just because of your money. You held our family together, and we never even noticed. Almost done, Marcus said. The last part is from your sister. Nathan, I know we can't undo the years of taking you for granted. I know we can't take back the jokes and the dismissal and the way we treated your generosity like it was owed to us. But we're family. That has to count for something. Please come home. Please give us a chance to do better. Love, Mom, Rachel, and Kevin. Marcus was quiet for a moment after finishing, then, so what do you want me to tell them? I looked around my new office, sleek, modern, overlooking downtown Austin. On my desk were contracts worth more than my family had borrowed from me over 15 years. On my walls were awards from clients who valued my expertise, my judgment, my worth. Tell them I got the letter. That's it? That's it. Nathan, I have to ask, are you sure about this? I mean, they seem genuinely sorry. I thought about Kevin's laughter echoing through my dining room, about years of being treated like an ATM with no feelings, about Sunday dinners where I cooked the food, bought the wine, and served as the evening's entertainment through mockery and dismissal. Marcus, let me ask you something. If a business partner spent 15 years taking your own money, mocking your work, and treating you like their personal servant, then only apologize when the money stopped flowing, would you go back into business with them? Well, no, but family is just another kind of partnership. And this partnership was toxic from the beginning. Marcus sighed. I'll let them know you received their message. Actually, just don't respond at all. Let them wonder. Because wondering was what I'd done for 15 years. Wondering why I wasn't good enough, why my success didn't matter, why my generosity was met with contempt instead of gratitude. Now it was their turn to wonder. 1 year after that Sunday dinner, I was cooking again. But this time, the guests around my table were people who saw me clearly, colleagues who respected my expertise, friends who appreciated my company, clients who valued my judgment. My Austin apartment was twice the size of my old place, with a kitchen designed for someone who actually enjoyed cooking. The dining room table was custom-made, large enough for the dinner parties I'd started hosting monthly. Nathan, this risotto is incredible, said Jennifer Martinez, the CISO of a major tech company and one of my most important clients. Where did you learn to cook like this? Years of practice, I said, refilling her wine glass. I used to cook for my family every Sunday. Used to? Asked David Kim, a fellow cybersecurity consultant who'd become a close friend. Long story. Let's just say they didn't appreciate the effort. Jennifer laughed. Their loss. This meal is restaurant quality. Around the table sat 8 people. Professionals, colleagues, friends. People who knew my work, respected my success, and enjoyed my company. When they laughed, it was at my jokes, not at my expense. When they asked about my business, it was with genuine interest, not dismissive mockery. This was what Sunday dinner was supposed to feel like. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it briefly, another attempt from Kevin to reach me through a new number. I'd blocked dozens of them over the past year. Everything okay? David asked. Just someone from my past who doesn't understand that the past is over. I deleted the message without reading it and turned my attention back to my guests. These were my people now. This was my family now. Chosen, not inherited, based on mutual respect, not genetic obligation. After dinner, as we moved to the living room for coffee and conversation, Jennifer pulled me aside. Nathan, I have a proposition for you. Our company is expanding into European markets, and we need a cybersecurity consultant who can handle international compliance issues. It would mean relocating to London for at least 2 years, possibly longer. Interested? London, a new continent, a new challenge, a new life, even further from the family that had never valued what they had. What's the compensation package? I asked. She named a figure that was more than I'd ever made in a single year. Plus housing allowance, plus travel expenses, plus stock options in a company that was about to go public. When would you need an answer? Take your time, but Nathan, you're the only consultant we trust with something this big. You've built a reputation in this industry that's frankly remarkable. A reputation built on competence, reliability, and expertise, the complete opposite of how my family had seen me. I'll let you know by the end of the week, I told her. That night, after my guests had left and I'd cleaned up the dinner dishes, I sat in my home office and opened my laptop. I pulled up my family's social media profiles, something I did occasionally, more out of curiosity than concern. Mom's Facebook showed pictures of her small apartment, the one she'd moved to after losing the house she couldn't afford without my help. She looked older, tired. The comments from friends asking where I was had stopped appearing months ago. Rachel's Instagram was mostly pictures of her classroom. She'd gone back to teaching full-time after dropping out of her master's program. The photos were carefully composed to hide the stress I could see in her eyes. Kevin had no social media presence anymore. According to a mutual acquaintance I'd kept in touch with, he was working at a warehouse, living paycheck to paycheck, still dealing with the fallout from his failed business ventures. They'd learned what worthless actually meant. Not the quiet, reliable brother who solved their problems and funded their dreams. That was invaluable, irreplaceable, essential. Worthless was what they'd become without him. Scattered, struggling, diminished. I closed the laptop and poured myself a glass of the expensive whiskey Jennifer had brought as a dinner gift. Outside my windows, Austin glittered in the darkness, full of possibilities and opportunities. London was calling. A new adventure, a bigger stage, a chance to build something even greater. I raised my glass in a toast to the empty room. To knowing your worth, I said aloud, then drank deeply. The worthless man was gone forever. In his place was someone who understood the difference between being invisible and being essential, between being family and being valued, between giving from love and giving from habit. Tomorrow, I'd call Jennifer and accept her offer. In 3 months, I'd be in London, building a new life on a new continent, surrounded by people who saw me clearly. My family could keep wondering where I'd gone. I had better things to do than provide them with answers. 2 years later, I was in my London office overlooking the Thames when Marcus called with news I'd been expecting. Nathan, your mother passed away last week. Heart attack, I thought you should know. I set down my coffee and looked out at the river, processing the information. Mom was gone. The woman who'd raised me, who'd laughed at Kevin's jokes while eating food I'd bought and prepared, who'd taken my help for granted for 15 years. How did you find out? I asked. Kevin tracked me down again. He wanted me to tell you about the funeral arrangements in case you wanted to come back. When's the funeral? Tomorrow. St. Mary's Catholic Church, the one near your old neighborhood. I checked my calendar. I had a meeting with the Bank of England's cybersecurity team in the morning, followed by a consultation with a major pharmaceutical company. both contracts worth more than my family had ever borrowed from me. I won't be attending, I said. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Nathan, I have to ask, do you ever regret cutting them off so completely? I mean, your mother just died. Kevin and Rachel are planning the funeral alone. I thought about it. Did I regret anything about the past 2 years, the peace and the success, the relationships built on mutual respect rather than genetic obligation? Marcus, let me tell you about my life now. I live in a penthouse apartment in Canary Wharf. I consult for governments and Fortune 100 companies. I have friends who value my opinion, colleagues who seek my expertise, and clients who pay premium rates for my services. I cook dinner for people who say thank you. I give gifts to people who appreciate them. I help people who help me in return. That sounds good, but nothing. For 43 years, I lived for other people's approval and got nothing but contempt in return. For the past 2 years, I've lived for my own satisfaction and found more success and happiness than I ever thought possible. So no regrets? None, Marcus sighed. Kevin asked me to give you a message if I talk to you. I don't want to hear it. He said to tell you that he understands now, that you were never the worthless one in the family. I laughed, surprising myself. It only took him 44 years and our mother's passing to figure that out. He also said he's proud of what you've accomplished, that he brags about his successful brother to anyone who'll listen. He brags about the brother he drove away with his cruelty? I think he's trying to say he's sorry, Nathan, in his own way. I stood up and walked to my office window. Below me, London stretched out in all directions, a city of 8 million people, none of whom expected me to fund their emergencies or tolerate their mockery. A city where Nathan Carter was known for his expertise, his success, his worth. Marcus, do you know what Kevin's net worth is? I couldn't say. It's negative, has been for years. Do you know what mine is? I handle your contracts, so I have some idea. $2.3 million, and growing every month. Marcus whistled softly. That's substantial. Kevin spent 15 years telling me I was worthless while borrowing money from someone worth more than he'll ever see in his lifetime. The irony is perfect. So what should I tell him? I thought about it. Kevin, planning our mother's funeral alone, dealing with expenses he couldn't afford, finally understanding what he'd lost when he'd driven away the family's only success story. Tell him I got his message. That's all? That's all. After Marcus hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about the woman who'd raised me. She'd had her flaws. The casual dismissal of my achievements, the laughter at Kevin's cruel jokes, the assumption that my help was owed rather than given. But she'd also taught me to cook, to be reliable, to take care of family. The lessons had stuck, even if the family hadn't. I opened my laptop and composed a brief email to my assistant. Please send flowers to St. Mary's Catholic Church for the funeral of Margaret Carter tomorrow. Something tasteful but not elaborate. Sign the card from Nathan with no return address. It was the last thing I'd ever do for my family. A small gesture, enough to let them know I'd heard about Mom's passing, but not enough to invite further contact. Then I returned to my work, preparing for meetings with clients who valued my expertise, reviewing contracts that reflected my true worth, building a life that had nothing to do with the people who'd spent decades failing to see what was right in front of them. The worthless man was a ghost story now, a cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake generosity for weakness, silence for insignificance, love for obligation. Nathan Carter, cybersecurity expert, London resident, millionaire consultant. He was the reality. And he had work to do. 5 years after that Sunday dinner, Kevin found me. Not physically, I was still in London, now running my own international cybersecurity firm with offices in 3 countries. But he found me digitally, the way desperate people always do in the modern age. The message came through LinkedIn, where my professional profile showed exactly who I'd become. CEO of Carter Security International, consultant to governments and multinational corporations, speaker at global conferences on digital protection. Nathan, I know you probably won't read this, but I had to try. It's Kevin. I've been following your career online, and I'm amazed at what you've built. I always knew you were smart, but I never understood how successful you'd become. I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be. I read the message twice, then checked Kevin's profile. He was working as a night security guard at a warehouse in our old hometown. His profile picture showed a man who'd aged badly, gray hair, tired eyes, the look of someone who'd learned hard lessons too late. The message continued. I know I don't deserve a response, but I wanted you to know that I think about that dinner every day, about what I said, how we all laughed. I was jealous, Nathan. Jealous that you had your life together while mine was falling apart. I took it out on you because you were safe. You always came back, always helped, always forgave us. Jealous. After all these years, he'd finally admitted it. The successful brother who lived quietly, worked steadily, and never bragged about his achievements had been a constant reminder of Kevin's own failures. I looked up what cybersecurity consultants make, especially ones at your level. I showed Rachel and she couldn't believe it. We had no idea you were making more money than all of us combined while we were treating you like our personal bank account. The message was long, rambling, full of regrets and revelations that were years too late. But the ending caught my attention. I'm not asking for money or forgiveness or anything else. I just wanted you to know that you were right to leave. We were toxic, and you deserve better. I hope London is everything you wanted it to be. I hope you're happy. You deserve happiness more than anyone I know. I stared at the message for a long time, then closed my laptop without responding. That evening, I had dinner with Catherine Wells, the deputy director of the UK's National Cybersecurity Center, who'd become both a client and a close friend. We were celebrating the successful completion of a major government contract, one that had taken 2 years to complete and had earned my firm international recognition. You seem distracted tonight, Catherine observed as we shared a bottle of wine that cost more than Kevin's weekly salary. Message from my past, I said. My brother found me online. The family you never talk about? The same. Catherine knew bits and pieces of my story, enough to understand why I'd built my new life so far from my old one. What did he want? Nothing, actually. That's what made it strange. Just acknowledgement, I guess. Regret? Are you going to respond? I thought about it. Kevin's message had been different from the others over the years. No requests for money, no attempts to guilt me into returning, no promises that things would be different. Just honest recognition of what he'd lost and what I'd gained. I don't think so, I said finally. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. Catherine nodded. You've built something remarkable here, Nathan. Don't let ghosts from your past diminish that. She was right. Carter Security International now employed 47 people across 3 continents. We protected the digital infrastructure of banks, hospitals, governments, and major corporations. My personal net worth had crossed $5 million the previous year. More importantly, I was surrounded by people who valued my expertise, respected my judgment, and appreciated my company. My life was full of meaningful work, genuine friendships, and the satisfaction that came from being truly seen and valued. But Kevin's message stayed with me over the following weeks. Not because I was considering reconciliation, that ship had sailed long ago, but because it represented something I hadn't expected, genuine understanding of what he'd lost. A month later, I was back in the United States for a cybersecurity conference in San Francisco. On impulse, I drove down to Los Angeles and hired a private investigator not to contact my family, but simply to get an update on their lives. The report arrived a week later. Kevin was still working nights at the warehouse, living in a studio apartment alone. Rachel had remarried, a fellow teacher, and seemed to be doing well, though she'd never finished her master's degree. They'd both attended therapy after Mom's passing, apparently trying to understand how their family had fallen apart so completely. The investigator had included a detail that struck me. Kevin had framed a newspaper article about my firm's work with the European Union's cybersecurity initiative. It hung in his small apartment, the only decoration on otherwise bare walls. He was proud of me now, when it no longer mattered, when I no longer needed his approval or recognition, when I'd already built a life that had nothing to do with him or his opinion. The irony was perfect, and somehow it was enough. I filed the report away and returned to my work, to my life, to the success I'd built from the ashes of their dismissal. The worthless man was truly gone now, replaced by someone who knew his value because he'd been forced to discover it on his own. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift they'd ever given me, the gift of necessity, the gift of having to prove my worth to myself rather than to them. It had taken 5 years, but Kevin finally understood what he'd lost that Sunday night when he'd laughed at his own cruel joke. I understood what I'd gained.